All right. Welcome, 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 everybody. So glad to have you here with our weekly series, Time to Tell the Truth. And as I say every week, some of you are like I am. I'm old school. Back in the day, there used to be a show called To Tell the Truth. And they would stand up until the right person, till the truth person stood up. Well, that's our focus about education, making sure people understand what's going on in the life that we live in. My name is Dr. Rosalind Shaw Belt. Everybody calls me Dr. Roz. I am the CEO of Dream to Life Productions Ministry, things that we're doing to help make dreams come to life. I'm a wife, a musician, a number of things I've done, but what's important right here in this setting is that I'm a certified wellness coach. I am a certified wellness coach with a Conopreneur and lifestyle consultant certification, as well as a certified wellness coach with our naturopathic doctor, the courses that we've taken to qualify for that title. Today's topic is, do you know what you're eating? And let's kick it off with this video.
Two-thirds of Americans are obese or overweight. A new book suggests food companies manipulate their products. The goal to make us buy and eat more. Michael Moss is a New York Times investigative reporter. He's the author of Salt, Sugar, Fat, How the Food Giants Hooked Us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How did they hook us?
Salt, sugar, fat are the holy grail for the processed food industry. And they know when they hit the right formulas, they'll just send us over the moon for their products. They're not just getting us to like their products, they're getting us to eat more and more. And that's why reporting this book for me was like being inside a detective story. Take salt. I mean, I used to think it was just a rock taken out of the ground, ground up. There are more than 40 types of salt available to the processed food industry. Everything from powder that goes into salty canned soups to chunks that hit your tongue instantly and create what the industry calls flavor bursts to go to your brain until you eat more.
That's sometimes like in potato chips. They must have that.
You just hit my first law. That
Because
is the
there's
food I
definitely
hate.
something in some potato chips when you eat it that make you eat more than one.
Absolutely.
You're a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. This book has been at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. I was reading about it. Explain how the industry is doing this.
I use the A word really hesitantly, addiction. Some experts, though, will say that, look, some people will react compulsively to their foods. They have really smart scientists on staff who know how to formulate these three ingredients to the precise moment. So, for example, a person who invented a recent soda flavor for Dr. Pepper walked me through the process. And to get to the very precise amount of sugar, which he calls the bliss point, he came up with 61 variations of sweetness, put it to consumers, did his analysis, and the precise amount is what he came up with.
You characterize it as weaponizing their products. But
Yes.
here is what we asked the food and beverage industry to respond to your book. They said, Michael Moss's work misrepresents the strong commitment America's food and beverage companies have to providing consumers with the products, tools, and information they need to achieve and maintain a healthy diet. Nothing, in a sense, to rebut what you're trying to say.
Look, I mean, I have two young boys. When we go shopping, these products are still on the shelves. My book is peopled with senior executives from the food industry. Some of them regret what they've done, and they're calling on the food industry to do more meaningful changes, because obesity is still rampant. These are big, serious public health crises.
Are you suggesting that the food industry is doing essentially what the tobacco industry did?
You know, the parallels are really interesting. And what amazing thing that actually happened, Philip Morris became the largest food manufacturer in the country and eventually began warning its food division people that it's going to face problems on salt, sugar, and fat and obesity like it did on nicotine. This was a decade ago. Obesity has increased since then. Again, I think it's incumbent upon the food industry to realize people really care about what we're putting into our mouths.
You do get the feeling that we have reached a tipping point with respect to the danger to our health from too much sugar.
Yeah, no, and people care, and that's why I'm hoping that this book is sort of empowering to people too. I mean, you know, when you walk into the grocery store, they're doing everything they can to make you make a spontaneous decision. So make a list and stick to it. The outer edges of the store is where you should spend more time, the fruits and vegetables, and so you should do that. They position those highly loaded products in the center of the store at eye level, so that's where you really have to be careful as a consumer.
Michael Moss, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Salt, Sugar, Fat is on sale now.
Now, so the purpose of this session today is for us to become aware. Because there are some things that we totally understand, right? We understand that we need a healthy diet. But I'm of the mindset that there are some things that we don't even recognize of what's involved or how it's cooked or how it's made or even what are the ingredients that are in some of our foods. And so we're living a life where there's so many people with heart disease and diabetes and cancer. Let's just tackle those three, right? And not realizing that literally we can do something about it. If we start early enough educating people, educating our children, our teenagers, our young adults. Listen, a healthy diet can help prevent, did you hear what I said? Prevent chronic disease like heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. It can also improve infant, child, and maternal health and strengthen the one thing that God made to help us is our immune system. So we got to be mindful. Am I saying you've got to become a vegetarian or a vegan or plant-based? I am not saying any of the above. If you choose to do that, absolutely gung-ho, move straight ahead. But how about mindfulness? How about being intentional? How about walking in the grocery store, recognizing which aisles are better for me to walk in? Like he said, it's better for me to go over to the right or to the left to the produce section. Being mindful of what I'm eating can help you feel full with less food. I'm seeing it happening on a daily basis, even in my own life. I can eat something that's natural, something that's whole, something that has, like Dr. Bobby Price says, one word: apple, peach, plum, lettuce, one word, right? Instead of stuff that has a bunch of ingredients on it, and you don't have to eat as much of it to get full. If I can get one person to make a wiser choice about what you eat in the future.
Apple juice. Apples equals good. Arsenic equals bad. As we know, an apple a day theoretically keeps the doctors away, and it's probably more effective if you throw them. And arsenic is, well, poison. It can kill you quickly or slowly, depending on the dose. Arsenic occurs naturally in minerals, so it's not overly shocking to learn that small amounts of it can be found in apple juice. But what about large amounts? According to Dr. Oz, we might be drinking apple juice with 10 parts per billion of arsenic. And that shocked many people, but that's the safe limit for arsenic in drinking water. But the FDA has now carried out some testing to determine how much arsenic in apple juice is safe. Previously, they said that 23 parts per billion was the level we should be concerned about for inorganic arsenic in apple juice. However, based on a new risk assessment and cancer, they've lowered it to 10 parts per billion. They believe this low amount is achievable by manufacturers with good manufacturing practices.
So here's my problem with that. I keep hearing science talk about how much is okay. Did you hear what they just said in that video? They said this amount is okay. But now, because there's so many people that are getting cancer and they have a regular regimen of apple juice, now we've got to lower that number. How many people have to die before we wait on the FDA to approve or disapprove of information? See, Americans also eat fewer vegetables. We know that. Many of us are in that ballpark. I was. Fewer vegetables, fruits, whole grains, dairy products, and oils than the recommended allowance. Nearly 42% of American adults are what? Obese. Statistics from the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention show us this. And nobody likes to hear that word, obese. But hey, if you know what you're eating, then you can be more intentional and do something about it. Let's take a look at this, artificial sweeteners. How many of you have used artificial sweeteners thinking you're doing something good rather than using regular sugar?
Artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners are often promoted as a healthier alternative to sugar, but their history and manufacturing process are more complicated than they seem, possibly making you reconsider that diet soda. These sweeteners, including aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin, are produced through complex chemical methods using synthetic ingredients. Take aspartame, for example. It is created by combining two amino acids, aspartic acid and phenylalanine. This involves multiple steps of chemical reactions, where specific parts of the molecules are protected and then deprotected to achieve the desired result. The outcome is an incredibly powerful sweetener, sometimes up to 600 times sweeter than regular sugar. Despite being approved as safe for consumption by regulatory bodies like the FDA, there are ongoing debates and concerns about the health effects of artificial sweeteners. Some studies suggest that regular consumption of these sweeteners might interfere with the body's ability to manage blood sugar levels, potentially increasing the risk of metabolic disorders such as diabetes. Other research has pointed to possible links between artificial sweeteners and various health issues, including digestive problems, headaches, and even certain types of cancer. However, more research is needed to fully understand these risks and their implications.
Artificial sweeteners. Can you imagine thinking you're doing the right thing? What about every morning? And see, it's not about what you do some of the time, it's what you do all of the time. It's what you do most of the time. How many of you out there love your bacon? You want your bacon and eggs, you want your bacon and whatever, you want your bacon on your burger. We're raised with it, right? But do we know what we're eating?
Bacon. All right, look, I'm not gonna ruin bacon for you. Okay, I lied. I totally am. It's just really not that good for you. And deep down, you know that. Bacon is traditionally made from pork and goes through a curing process involving being soaked in nitrates, salt, and sometimes sugar. Sometimes it's also smoked after being cured. Both curing and smoking are preservation methods and also ensure bacon keeps its coloring and taste. But of course, it makes the bacon high in salt since salt is used in the curing process. When you eat food high in salt, you might be at an increased risk of stomach cancer and high blood pressure. Bacon is also high in fat, but everything in moderation, am I right? The real problem lies in the additives from the processing, such as nitrites and nitrates. When they're cooked at high heat, they form nitrosamine compounds, which are carcinogens. Fortunately, some bacon processors now add erythorbic acid and vitamin C, both of which might reduce the nitrosamine content. But we're not going to take all the joy out of bacon. It contains high-quality animal protein, a whole heap of vitamins like B1, B2, and B12, selenium, phosphorus, potassium, iron, zinc, and magnesium.
Now, if you think about this, and I hope the message that I'm trying to deliver is getting across, because what I want you to understand is when you walk in the grocery store and you look at this, you're going to think about it.
What'd you drop?
Yes. So I'm hoping that you're going to walk in and you're going to be able to really think about what's going on and make an intentional decision. Do I want it today? Do I want it every day? How about every now and then, right?
Bacon.
So one reason may be that healthy foods are often more expensive. That's the reason that people come up with why they can't eat healthy. Costs too much. Packaged foods tend to have higher amounts of salt, refined grains, sugar, unhealthy oils, not recommended by the dietary guidelines for Americans. But if I'm being more conscious myself of what's going on in my own body, I'll make those decisions.
Beer. This is absolutely wild, but your beer might contain fish. Sure, it also includes all those common ingredients like hops, water, barley, and malt, but you probably wouldn't see fish swim bladder on your average beer bottle. It has a fancier name, isinglass, but it's still a piece of fish, and it's been used in beer creation since the 19th century. Beer brewers use the swim bladder to clarify the beer. It doesn't normally change the flavor or composition of the beer all that much, but it ensures that it's clear, brightly colored, and attractive for beer drinkers. Without it, the beer might be a little murky. But this means that beer made by brewers who use isinglass is not vegan friendly. And even non-vegans are bound to be a little creeped out to learn that their favorite beer is being filtered through a dead fish. The good news is that breweries are changing their ways. Many are now steering away from fining agents, and some are coming up with less fishy alternatives.
Well, you know, we go to the places and they're drinking kegs of beer. I know people that are in my own family that drink beer every single day. So we're talking about stuff that's going on regular that we have no clue how it comes into being in what it is. Those of you that like your hot wings, you dip them in blue cheese or you dip them in ranch dressings. What about this blue cheese thing, right?
Blue cheese. Blue cheese. You either love it or hate it. It's moldy, and the best blue cheese has blue and green mold and a cream or white looking body. Because it's already moldy, it's actually quite hard to tell if it's gone bad. Typically, you can tell that blue cheese has gone off by growths that look different from the intended mold. Aside from a high risk of eating mold that shouldn't be there, you should consume blue cheese in moderation for other reasons. It's very high in calories. There are at least 99 calories in a single ounce of blue cheese, and if you're on a weight loss journey, you should not be in a hurry to use it as a salad topper. Blue cheese is also high in cholesterol, with 5 grams of saturated fat per serving. There are also 21 milligrams of dietary cholesterol in each ounce, and we should be having no more than 300 milligrams per day. And if you were eating blue cheese for extra calcium, perhaps choose another dairy product. It has far less calcium than other dairy products, with just 150 milligrams per ounce compared to 300 to 450 milligrams in a cup of reduced fat milk or yogurt.
Blue cheese. Oh my God. Some people love it, love it, love it. But not knowing what it is means you don't know what's going on in your body. See, the CDC notes that high blood pressure, high cholesterol caused by consuming too much salt are the leading causes of heart disease and stroke, right? Most of us know that, but current guidelines recommend getting less than 2,300 milligrams of salt a day. But guess what? Most of us consume more than 3,400 milligrams a day. Do I think that we should be concerned? Do I think that we should pay attention to how much we're consuming? See, the culprit is more than 70% of that salt that Americans eat comes from what? Packaged, processed, store-bought, and restaurant foods. That's what the CDC says. I've heard another teacher say if it's in a can, if it's in a bottle, if it's in a package or a box, then you need to be concerned about the amount of salt that's being used to preserve that package and keep it on the shelf for a long period of time. So now let's look at one of my husband's favorites. You just saw him, right? Bread.
Packaged bread. We often don't know what's really in our food, especially when it comes to something as common as bread. Unless you're buying fresh loaves from a local bakery, the ingredients in commercial bread can be quite surprising, and not in a good way. One startling fact is that many commercial breads contain an amino acid called L-cysteine, which is sometimes derived from human hair. Amino acids are essential building blocks of proteins, and L-cysteine is used in the food industry to prolong the shelf life of products like bread. The unsettling part is how it's sourced. L-cysteine can be made from human hair, as well as duck feathers, cow horns, and pig bristles. Much of the human hair used comes from the floors of hair salons in China. This hair is dissolved in acid, and through a chemical process, L-cysteine is extracted, packaged, and shipped to commercial bread manufacturers. If this makes you uncomfortable, one way to avoid L-cysteine is to buy bread from local bakeries, where the ingredient is less likely to be used. L-cysteine is not a common additive in flour itself, so fresh bakery-made bread is usually free from this controversial ingredient. However, be cautious with bread from fast food outlets, as they often use commercially produced bread, which could contain L-cysteine. Next time you enjoy a sandwich, consider this. The bread might have started as someone's ponytail in China before ending up on your plate. Understanding where our food comes from and what it contains is crucial for making informed choices about what we eat. Opting for local, freshly baked bread can help you avoid the questionable origins of some commercial bread ingredients.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Make us more intentional, make us conscious, raise up our level of consciousness so that if I get it, I understand what I'm doing. I understand what's happening. And I'm not surprised when the doctor tells me I've got this or I've got that, because I know what I've been doing for 10, 20, 30 years. All of this ultra-processed foods, which has actually elevated and enhanced over the years, because my great-grandmother, that's not what they had, right? But technology has so improved that it's killing us. all the processing that's allowing food to stay on the shelf for a long time, it's designed to do what? Fire up cravings and desire for these foods. It makes us want them more and more and more. And let's not talk about the advertising, because I did a session weeks ago, and if you want to hit subscribe, you can see all of the different sessions that I've been doing where I talked about the advertising that's taking place in our communities. It's everywhere. And it's making us, because when people see something on TV, they think, oh, it's on television, it must be right. But it's not the fault of the consumer that they long for ultra-processed foods. The CEO of the company that I'm involved with calls them gut busters, where we desire it unknowingly. It wakes you up in the middle of the night and you crave for certain things. But it's up to us to recognize the manipulation by the food companies and to take control of what we choose to eat. It's up to us. So now we can't blame them, although it's really not our fault that all this is taking place, because we put everything in place where they want to do. There's a demand for the processed foods because we want everything to happen fast. Now, I've just recently gotten into mushrooms, loving them, but I want you to check this out about the canned mushrooms.
Canned mushrooms. Canned mushrooms are a convenient go-to for many home cooks, but there's a hidden detail that might make your skin crawl. According to the FDA's guidelines, known as the Food Defect Action Levels, a certain number of maggots and insect larvae are permitted in each can of mushrooms. This might sound shocking, but it's true. These guidelines set the maximum allowable limits for various contaminants in food products, including those creepy crawlers. While the idea of consuming insect larvae is definitely unappetizing, the FDA assures us that these contaminants are harmless and don't pose significant health risks. The larvae typically come from insects laying eggs on the mushrooms before they're processed, and they're considered a natural part of the harvesting and canning process. Despite the FDA's assurances, many people find the thought of potentially eating insect larvae enough to lose their appetite. Just the idea of finding something wriggling in your can of mushrooms can be deeply unsettling. So what can you do to avoid these unwelcome surprises? Opt for fresh mushrooms whenever possible. Fresh mushrooms are less likely to have such contaminants because they haven't gone through the extensive processing that canned mushrooms do. Additionally, choosing brands that prioritize quality control and have a strong reputation for producing clean, contaminant-free products can also help minimize the risk.
I've already lost my appetite for mushrooms, at least in the can. Yeah, I'm going to the farmer's market to get my mushrooms. I'm just saying, oyster mushrooms, lion's mane mushrooms. I'm going to the farmer's market to get my mushrooms. I don't want to see the creepy crawlers. So here's the thing, choosing unhealthy foods does more than pack on the pounds. Being overweight or obese ups the odds of developing type 2 diabetes. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, there is a reason, and I had another session where we were talking about the ethnicity of those that are in having different diseases, and we as African Americans are always at the top of that list. Among US adults, 96 million have pre-diabetes. I hate that word pre-anything, either you have it or you don't, but when you're leaning towards it, right? Diabetes leads to what? To poor circulation, resulting in amputations, and the blood sugar disease is also linked to vision loss and kidney disease. We gotta stop it. We can do something about it. You say, but you haven't been diagnosed yet. Wonderful. But guess what I want you to do? Recognize the foods that are leading you in that direction and in excess of those things, the things that we do on a regular basis.
Canned tomatoes. Look, I'll be the first to admit that I've got more than a few cans of tomatoes in my pantry. They're so convenient for pasta dishes, but what you're about to learn will probably have you catapulting them into the trash. And it actually has nothing to do with the tomatoes. They're just the innocent victim in all this. It's all about the packaging. Many cans have a resin that's believed to leach the toxic chemical known as bisphenol A, or BPA, into the food the can contains. And as tomatoes are so acidic, the rate of it leaching into the food can be much faster. Many health problems can be linked to BPA chemical exposure, such as hormonal disruption, malformation of organs, sperm defects, and an increased rate of mental disabilities. The Centers for Disease Control also conducted a survey that found detectable levels of BPA in around 93% of urine samples from people aged 6 and over. Most experts don't seem to think there would be enough BPA in the average canned food to increase the risk of disease, but it's definitely food for thought. Might be worth preserving your own tomatoes and using glass jars instead.
So now, here's what I want you to think about, because people will watch this and they'll say, well, I don't do this and I do that. But if you're seeing every different food that we're talking about and you compound that into your whole lifestyle, maybe you weren't a beer drinker, but yet you did the canned tomatoes and you did the mushrooms and you did the apple juice. When you compound all of that into one lifespan, that's what's leading us down the path that we're having an unhealthy diet. And in addition, the CDC says an unhealthy diet can increase the risk of some cancers. We taught on cancer in 2 different sessions, how we can feed cancer cells or starve cancer cells. Again, definitely click on subscribe if you want to see all of those. But eating unhealthy food and drinks can lead to chronic conditions and put you at a higher risk of at least 13 types of cancer, including uterine cancer, breast cancer, postmenopausal women, and colon cancer. Colon cancer is associated with eating red and processed meat. It's been already said that we have a generation that is going to be more prone to colon cancer than those of us who are the baby boomers right now that are still yet living. People are going to die at a younger age. It's already happening. Now, for all you bourgeoisie folks, caviar, check this out.
Caviar. Caviar, often seen as the epitome of luxury and sophistication, consists of tiny, salty pearls that many consider a culinary delicacy. But the glamorous image of caviar contrasts sharply with the reality of how it's produced. Caviar is essentially the roe, or eggs, of sturgeon fish, and its journey from water to table is far from simple. Sturgeon are ancient fish that have existed for over 200 million years. These majestic creatures take a long time to mature, sometimes up to 20 years, before they can produce eggs. Once they reach maturity, the process of harvesting these precious eggs begins. Traditionally, this involves killing the female sturgeon to extract her roe. The fish is caught and her belly is carefully cut open to remove the eggs. This process is not only labor-intensive but also has significant implications for sturgeon populations. After the eggs are extracted, they undergo a meticulous process of cleaning and salting. This delicate procedure enhances the flavor and preserves the eggs, transforming them into the luxurious caviar that graces high-end parties and gourmet dishes. The careful handling and precise salting are crucial, as the quality of caviar is judged by its taste, texture, and appearance. However, the traditional method of harvesting caviar has raised considerable ethical and environmental concerns. The practice of killing sturgeon for their roe has contributed to the decline of sturgeon populations worldwide, pushing many species to the brink of extinction. Overfishing and habitat loss further exacerbate the situation, making sustainable caviar production a significant challenge. In response to these issues, some modern caviar farms have developed no-kill methods for harvesting roe. This involves gently massaging the eggs out of the fish or performing a surgical procedure that allows the fish to continue living and producing more roe in the future. While these methods are more sustainable, they are also more expensive and less widely adopted, meaning traditional practices still dominate the market.
They're doing everything they can to keep the fish alive so they can keep making more money with their caviar, basically. See, food is all around people, but much of it, unfortunately, isn't healthy. Grocery stores, we did that session that we talked about the grocery stores, the aisles, what we call it Temptation Alley. Remember what Temptation Alley is? That's the alley right there on their way to the checkout, where you have everything at eye level for the kids so they can see everything they want, everything there. is packed with sugar and salt and unhealthy fats. No, there's not an apple or an orange in Temptation Alley. There's not some nuts in Temptation Alley. Only a fraction of the store space is devoted to healthy vegetables. And I even showed you guys, there was a particular store, you can go to the same store, looking for the same products in various stores and find it in different locations. And there was this one store that had, in the produce section, they had the apples, and then they had caramel apples right there in the produce section. You're going to get a regular apple, and then you see that caramel apple, and now you're tempted. So only a fraction of the store space is devoted to healthy vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. And the agency says that more access to healthy foods is needed in our communities, at work, and at school. We've got to start earlier. And even as parents, we've got to make a difference and not just send things that are unhealthy in your kids' lunch kit.
Chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets are a favorite among kids and adults, but their production story might make you think twice. While we often imagine them as being made from tender, juicy chicken breast, the reality is usually quite different. Many chicken nuggets are made from mechanically separated chicken, a process where the entire chicken carcass, including bones and all, is ground into a paste-like consistency. This mixture not only includes meat, but also bone fragments and connective tissue. To create a uniform texture, the paste is mixed with various additives such as salt, flavorings, and binding agents. Once the mixture is ready, it is shaped into those familiar nugget forms, breaded and fried until they are golden and crispy. Using mechanically separated chicken allows manufacturers to utilize parts of the chicken that might otherwise go to waste, making the process more economical. However, this also means that what you're eating may contain more than just meat. The presence of bone fragments and connective tissue can be unsettling and raises questions about the overall quality of the product. In recent years, some brands have started to move away from this method, opting instead to use whole muscle meat, which is closer to what most people expect when they think of chicken nuggets. These nuggets are made from whole pieces of chicken breast or thigh, which are then cut into smaller pieces, breaded, and fried. These versions tend to be a bit more expensive, but are generally considered higher quality and more appealing to consumers. If you're concerned about what's in your food, it's always a good idea to check the ingredients list on the packaging. Look for products that specify the use of whole muscle meat, and avoid those with a long list of unrecognizable additives. Next time you're tempted by those crispy, golden chicken nuggets, take a moment to think about their journey from chicken to nugget. Remember the old saying, "You are what you eat." Being informed about what goes into your favorite foods can help you make better choices for your health and well-being.
And that's what we're all about, better choices, being able to have the options, know why I need the options, because guess what? Hey, we love our nuggets, but we need to know we can choose the ones that would be the best for us. So we know, for instance, that we have a food supply of willfully addictive junk food. We know that it's addictive, right? You want more of it, designed to maximize your eating. That's why they've got supersize. Yet make futile recommendations for portion control without addressing the root cause. If we would think about portion control, then it wouldn't be as hard to say, okay, I can do this. But a lot of times we're recognizing that we're not even dealing with portion control.
Energy drinks are beautiful go-go juices. When you want to go-go, you knock back one of these bad boys and you're in full power mode. But it doesn't take a genius to work out that we should be drinking water instead. The average energy drink has caffeine, sugar, additives, and legal stimulants like L-carnitine, guarana, and taurine. People drink them to be more alert and attentive and to enjoy more energy. But when you drink them, you might instead notice an increase in blood pressure, heart rate, and breathing. According to the CDC, nearly 1,500 teenagers between the ages of 12 and 17 presented to the emergency room in 2011 for energy drink-related emergencies. They can present many dangers, like dehydration when there's not enough water in your body, and anxiety, where you feel jittery and nervous. Some people also experience insomnia, which is when you can't sleep. But perhaps one of the most severe dangers associated with energy drinks is heart complications. Some people have experienced irregular heartbeat and heart failure after drinking energy drinks. But it's not just teens that energy drinks are bad for. None of us should be drinking them. They contain huge amounts of sugar and unnecessary calories, and many are providing you with far more caffeine than you need.
You know, cigarettes have a label on them saying it's bad for your health, may cause cancer. What if the energy drinks, or any of the items that we've covered so far, had a label on them that just said this is toxic to you, or this may cause you to have a heart attack if you drink it every day? See, we've got such a difference in standards in the country that we live in. So many of these items that we're talking about are banned in other countries. And we're going to do a session completely on all the stuff that's banned in other countries that are flourishing in the United States. But there are a few core reasons why people's habits directly contradict what they know is good for them. These are our excuses. Lack of time. We live in a busy society and people barely have time for things that involve self-care. We're taught that sleeping, drinking water, setting boundaries is for weak people. And we often struggle to balance work, family, and leisure schedules. And that constrains the time available that can be spent on cooking. You know, nobody wants to take the time to cook anymore because that's, I don't have time for that. And so we pick up the kids from school. You've been at work and we pick up the kids from school. And so we go through the fast food place, not realizing that we're shortening the lifespan of your own child. So healthy habits like meal prepping, they require what? An investment of time and resources that can be easily disrupted by or any other responsibility. Something else is going to get in the way of that. And then those long working hours, because we're so working hard to make a living, that's been found to associated with what? Higher energy, sugar, fat consumption, as well as an increased intake of convenience foods and eating out. Unfortunately, most of us will put these and many other responsibilities above our own well-being. But if you're watching this, I need you to make a conscious decision. I'm going to take more time. I'm going to stop because I know that I've got to take control of my life. Now let's talk about one of our favorites, chicken and beef.
Enhanced chicken and beef. The next time you purchase chicken and beef from your local grocery store with brined or enhanced on the packaging, pay attention to the weight. Some of that weight is nothing more than a saltwater solution and a few seasonings. And you're paying extra for it to be there. It's actually not uncommon for food processors to plump their meat by injecting it with salt water. In fact, it's an industry standard. But why do they do it? Well, the reasoning behind it is that it'll make your chicken or beef fresher and juicier. After all, who wants to tuck into a dry bit of meat? Everyone would blame your cooking. The problem is just how much your average chicken breast is being plumped. Some studies have found that a chicken's weight can be plumped up with saltwater solutions by as much as 30%. Every year, consumers spend millions of dollars on salt water rather than chicken. Now, at first, processors were just adding saline to keep the poultry moist, but they realized it didn't really help with the flavor. So they started adding forms of sugar like corn syrup, as well as lemon concentrates and broths. To help the chicken hold on to that water during shipping, they also added sodium phosphate to bind it. But as this would stop them from being able to claim a product was low sodium, they used potassium phosphate. They then encountered another problem. Potassium phosphate tastes bitter. So what do? They add more natural flavors. Look, I'm not saying that every piece of chicken you buy will have all these fillers and additives, but it's worth keeping in mind that there's often more than just chicken in your chicken.
There's more than just chicken in your chicken. Oh my God, do we know what we're eating? Yeah, see, so we say, okay, well, I'm going to start doing fruit juices. I'm not going to do soda. I'm going to do fruit juices. But what about the fruit juices?
Commercial fruit juices. Commercial fruit juices are often marketed as a healthy alternative to sugary sodas, but they may not be as nutritious as they seem. Many of these juices are quite different from the fresh, nutrient-rich beverages we imagine. Instead of being made from freshly squeezed fruit, most commercial juices are produced from concentrate. This means the juice is dehydrated for easier storage and transport. When it's time to bottle the juice, water is added back to the concentrate along with other ingredients like sugar, artificial flavors, and preservatives. This process significantly reduces the nutritional value of the juice and alters its natural taste. Sometimes the juice may not even contain much real fruit, relying instead on artificial flavors and colors to mimic the taste and look of fresh juice. This can be misleading, making you think you're drinking something healthy when it's actually filled with additives. One of the biggest concerns with commercial fruit juices is the added sugar. Excessive sugar intake can lead to various health problems, including obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Despite the fruity flavor, these juices can contain as much sugar as or even more than regular sodas. Therefore, while a glass of orange juice might seem like a healthy choice, it's crucial to read labels carefully. Look for juices with minimal ingredients and no added sugars. A better option is to enjoy whole fruit instead of juice. Whole fruits provide fiber, vitamins, and minerals that are often lost during the juice production process. Eating a piece of fruit not only gives you all the natural nutrients, but also helps you feel fuller longer, making it a more wholesome choice.
And even taking that whole fruit and juicing that whole fruit can definitely help you. Here's another excuse. And then we're going to stop our session for today, and we're going to finish this on next week because I've got so involved in the research of this, and so many different foods and things in their processes was just amazing that I said, okay, it's going to take me 2 sessions to share all this information. But another excuse that we have is that eating healthy is expensive. Now, granted, there are some things that are definitely expensive, but not everything. But along with the lack of time, this is the most common reason that we say we can't eat healthy. However, this is questionable. It is true. As I said, some things that you do are costly, like if you're going to go all organic or gluten-free, it costs a little bit more. Even though eating organic is indeed better for your health, guess what? It's not a necessity. I challenge you to understand that you can make some conscious decisions when you're walking in the grocery store, and it may or may not be organic. Nourishing foods, just starting to eat nourishing foods like carrots and lentils and peppers, they're cheaper than potato chips. The key is to eat more whole foods and fewer processed ones. Studies comparing the price per unit weight of foods from the same food group suggest that healthy options are often cheaper. For example, 200 grams of chickpeas versus 200 grams of bacon. On the other hand, according to the 2013 study, a very healthy diet, one enriched in fruits, vegetables, nuts, and fish, costs about $1.50 more per day, just $1.50. And a person in a diet high in processed foods, meats, and refined grains that's leading them down the road to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer. So we're going to stop here. Again, hit the subscribe button if you want to get more of the information from previous teachings that I've done. And definitely come back with us and be with us next week for us part 2 as we finish this part 2 of Do You Know What You're Eating?